の揺れが長く、そしてだんだん大きくなっていくのが福島県内の地震でした。さあ、あと20秒以内に福島県に津波が到達することが予想されています。棚のものもどんどん落ちていきまして、元の位置にある棚は現在郡山市の FCP ニュースセンターにはほとんどありません。
On March 11, 2011, at around 2:46 p.m., an earthquake with a magnitude of 9 suddenly hit the Pacific coast of Tohoku, Japan. It was the strongest earthquake Japan had ever experienced in history. The earthquake triggered a tsunami, and the tsunami killed over 22,000 people because they simply didn't have time to evacuate to a safe place. This tragedy didn't just end there. The tsunami also caused the infamous Fukushima nuclear disaster, with the impact still felt by the people in Japan today. Toyota, like other Japanese automakers, suffered great loss because their factories in Japan were damaged, where Toyota produced 50% of its cars. Not only that, they had to halt production across the world because of supply shortage. Half of the 300 parts needed to assemble a single car became unavailable. This disaster almost destroyed Toyota's supply chain. Disruptions at the local supplier level brought Toyota's entire global operation to its knees. The company had to pause production for 4 months in Japan and had to wait for 6 months before they could fully resume the production outside of Japan. Since then, the company has vowed to solve the problem of its fragile supply chain. Solution 1. Toyota's decreased technical dependency on suppliers. Having learned lessons from the supply chain disruptions caused by the earthquakes and the tsunami, Toyota launched measures such as decentralizing sources for car parts and changing the proprietary parts to generalized designs used by all automakers. In order to decentralize the automotive part supply chain, Toyota realized they needed to understand exactly what each part is used for, instead of relying on their suppliers to provide black box solutions, such as Volkswagen relying on Continental for its cockpit experience solution and in-car application servers. We understand the technology inside out. It's a different level of knowledge that you can't simply gain if you're just buying those technologies, a Toyota engineer told Reuters. This also includes a deep understanding of all the chips their cars needed. In order to achieve this deep technical understanding, Toyota had been poaching semiconductor talents from the industry, so Toyota itself had the ability to design the chips it needed. Solution 2. Toyota's Business Continuity Plan, or BCP. Most importantly, Toyota started asking their suppliers to stockpile 2 to 6 months worth of supply under a business continuity plan, or BCP, which is in agreement with their suppliers. Not only that, Toyota has been constantly providing their short-term and long-term production volume plans to suppliers in order to help suppliers make better demand forecasts. This plan to stock up the automotive parts included the car chips Toyota needed, such as the MCUs, or microcontroller units. MCUs are needed for braking, acceleration, steering, ignition, combustion, tire pressure gauges, and rain sensors. These microcontroller units are stored by Toyota suppliers such as Denso, Renesas, and TSMC. In a typical car, at least 50 MCUs are used. With the rise of electric vehicles and self-driving cars, this number will only grow in magnitude. This move to create more redundancy in the supply chain may seem like the opposite of Toyota's famous just-in-time philosophy, but it actually requires Toyota to first identify the bottlenecks in the system so they can further cushion themselves from future risks. Therefore, Toyota's pushing forward its Business Continuity Plan, or BCP, and asking their suppliers to stockpile parts is actually a lean approach. The result: since 2011, Toyota has had a chance to stress test this new method. In 2016, another huge earthquake hit southern Japan, rattling its supply chain again. This time, Toyota had to shut down 26 assembly lines, but only temporarily. Toyota was able to resume production in just a couple of weeks. Toyota was one of the first automakers to come up with solutions to manage the risks in the supply chain, particularly those caused by the natural disasters, because Japan is prone to earthquakes. Even though the solution was not designed to mitigate the risks caused by the COVID-19 pandemic today, Toyota is the only automaker that did not suffer from the global chip shortage thanks to its business continuity plan and agreement with its suppliers. Toyota even raised its full-year earnings forecast by 54%. Chip shortage, a problem that won't go away. In a previous video, I mentioned why there's such a severe global chip shortage that most of the automakers have to pause their production, and the whole world's supply relies on a handful of chip makers, such as Taiwan's TSMC and South Korea's Samsung. Some may ask, if we have a worldwide shortage of semiconductors, why don't we just build new factories? Well, it's a complicated issue without a simple solution. First, it takes years to build a factory, and at the beginning, the yield rate would only be around 50%. It takes decades of adjustments and experience to improve the yield rate, and only then the production efficiency would make economic sense. Secondly, it's extremely capital intensive to build chip factories. According to Bloomberg, a new factory will cost $4 billion. Because of the high entry barrier and the need for extreme efficiency, 70% of the worldwide chips are produced in Asia, especially by Taiwan and South Korea. The US has about 20%, and the EU only accounts for 8% of the total capacity. In an environment where capacity is an issue and it's far more profitable to produce the state-of-the-art chips for computers, mobile phones, or game consoles, no one really wants to make the older chips the car makers need because it takes months of retooling and the profit margin is just much lower. Currently, the global sales of electric vehicles only accounts for 3% of the total sales of all new vehicles. But as cars become more and more high-tech, the automotive industry's demand for semiconductors will only soar. The solution of companies competing for chip production capacity, not only within the automotive industry, but worldwide across industries, will only continue. Even Toyota cannot be sure whether their chip inventory can support the whole production after August 2021, although it is currently the winner among automakers in the global chip shortage. What other automakers would you like me to focus on? Leave me a comment and let me know. Thank you and see you next time.